Wonder if they heard your comments or anything.
I don't think they did.
Okay.
I think we are now.
Maybe you can ask them the feedback if they heard any of this, but yeah.
Right. So want to just say thank you for your patience. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Clint Sneed. I'm the president and the chief compliance officer here at Box Financial. As you can tell, we are good finance guys, but we're not high technology guys. So thank you for attending this inaugural event for us, where we're trying to provide a session where we can give you some additional information on a certain topic. And so the topic today is regarding college savings. So many of you may have actually kind of sat down with us, myself, Joby Elliott, one of the advisors on our team, and probably have helped you do exactly what I do for my own wife, and that's, well, how much do we need to save for college, and how much have we set aside, and what a type of an account? A lot of those type of general questions I know we handle pretty regularly. But what we found out is there's a lot of other things you can do to prepare for college. And they may not be something that we've handled so far in a financial planning appointment. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that those topics were addressed. And that's when we were actually introduced to John Decker. And we appreciate John for joining us today. John is with an organization called Every Student Sent. It's a nonprofit. And so he has got a lot of good resources on the ways to approach the process. How are there ways to lower your cost or focus on lowering the cost, which is what every parent, I think, would like to see. But what we also found out as we got to know John was kind of an alarming statistic, and that's how many students might actually have a traumatically changed life in college that may not actually allow them to continue on in their values and their beliefs. And so what we wanted to do is provide an opportunity where this type of information could be shared pretty easily. And we also wanted to thank you for attending by trying to also buy you lunch. So thank you for your patience as we've been kind of working on getting this this new software to us to work. And so just a few of the kind of the basics of today's session before we get started, and that's, if you do have a question, if you could you put that onto the right-hand side of the screen? There should be a Q&A option, and we'll try to leave some time for some questions at the end. But also what we'd like to do is, if there's any of the information that you need to discuss today, we'll definitely encourage John to be a resource for you. But at the same time, if there's another topic outside of what we're talking about today with education, let us know. And that might be another future lunch and learn that we try to do for you. So thank you for your trust in us. And with that, John, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to us today. I'll let you go ahead and get started since we're a couple minutes late.
Yeah. Thanks, Clint. And thanks to all that are attending. We appreciate the opportunity to help, and we'd love to hear your questions. So anything that comes up along the line, just put it in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll address it a little further on. So so I am, well, let me just start out with this. So we call this the 3 pillars of college success. And if you think about it, if you miss on any of these, or your students do, it's certainly not going to optimize the best plans for your students. They really, if they don't find the purpose and career, and they come out of college with a job that they don't like or can't even find the right job at all, it's it's definitely a miss. If you come out and pay way too much for college, or if you end up taking out loans and have student debt, that's a miss also. And it's also important to be, students are so much formed by their peer group and by their mentors. And so if they have the maximum opportunity on these peer groups, that's what you really want to go for. And so I am one of the co-founders of Every Student Sent. This is a nonprofit centered in Austin, Texas. And I'm actually in New York myself. But this is in terms of mostly focused, we're a collaboration with all the college ministries, youth ministries in the nation to change how the transition to college works, so students do very well. And but we want to see holistically families and students do well so that they don't pay more than they need to pay for college and they find the right career. And so for that, we've partnered with two for-profit organizations, College Assistance Plus and Crown Financial Ministries Career Direct, to help with that. And actually, we get a little bit of the revenue from that, which helps support every student sent, so we're not fully dependent upon donations. So we'll talk about college fellowship now. And, the Navigators Ministry did a study that said the friends that a student makes during the first 72 hours on campus really drives a lot of their spiritual trajectory and their faith. That can be for good or bad, but it's a time when the emotions run high, the roommates you meet, that even if a student plans to continue in their faith, actually 2/3 of them don't, even though they intend to. But it's also the most open time for new pre-Christians, those that are not really acquainted with Jesus. This is the most open time to share the gospel, and we have seen revivals happen in the college campus. I know when I was working at Lockheed Martin years ago, and my wife and I planted a InterVarsity chapter, there was an instance where some students fresh out of high school saw a student radically changed and set free by God in the first few days. And so they were so impressed that this gospel they've been hearing about their whole life is so powerful that they partnered with this student and led 26 other kids to the Lord in that dorm that semester. And with the level of revival and things that are going on, I don't know if you're aware of, Friday night, there's going to be something called Gather 25. You can tune in Friday and Saturday. It's talking about these college awakenings that are happening all across the U.S. and the world. So we do this with a coalition of all the major college ministries, different supporting ministries. You can see there in the second layer, all the Christian school associations, Focus on the Family, Alpha, many other supporting information, and also business ministries, because we're helping students prepare for the workplace and connect with marketplace people even before they leave college. So now, for the first time in history, freshmen can start with a team they get to know all spring and summer. If you see this graphic, they join Every Student Sent. It's a free service, and they can find other incoming freshmen and existing students and leaders on their current campus, find friends, roommates, people in their major, and really develop as a team so they can really hit the ground running with a solid set of friends and then be able to navigate from there. We're also helping them develop a fellowship within each of the academic majors, say the biology major, the education major, the film and media major, where they can find others there to help express the gospel in those organizations and actually try to even impact the culture and the professors in that sphere. So kind of the path of a student is in high school juniors and seniors, there's courses here to help students be able to launch a disciple-making community. There's courses, there's some well-known people speaking in the courses. There's some things that we've developed that help them really think of campus and think of how to walk with the Lord in a way that isn't just a receiver, but is someone that can lead others to the faith and teach those new people how to multiply. The reason the church has grown so phenomenally well in China and even Iran and Iraq is because the way that they live is multiplying disciples. I've got a lot of friends that do this in Asia, and it's amazing. And so that's really the shift that's coming to America is be active and learn how to pour into the new person that you've led to the Lord. So high school juniors and seniors, you want to select the right college. One of the criteria you can use are what helpful groups are there on the college campus that you can connect with. And so you can go on to everystudentsent.org, find any campus in the U.S., and you'll see InterVarsity, Crew, Chi Alpha, all the major college ministries, also some vocational things. And this will help you find the right college. You can actually talk to students in their future major to see if the student, they can really learn about the major and curriculum from a student themselves. And students love connecting at that level. And by the time they've kind of selected a college, they can go a bit deeper and find these friends and roommates and really create a bond before college. In current college students, as I say, we help them develop a community with each of the academic majors. This is a picture of one within an entrepreneurship major, and it could be any. And so that's a way to learn to live and express your life and faith in a professional environment, so you're ready to do that when you go off to the workplace. And then within that, there's a marketplace preparation. So we partner with these marketplace ministries that become subject matter experts that are speaking to the students. And then we're building a connection to whatever new city that a student will go to upon graduation. They'll have friends and mentors there to help them get settled in that new city. And then you'll get this slide deck later. You can see this for later viewing. You'll see some student stories and an interesting article on CBN News about how this works. So let's talk about purpose in career.
So, hey, John, just to kind of summarize for just a second, you may hear us at Box Financial kind of regularly say we want to have clarity to our counsel, that we don't want to have a conflict of interest. And so I think the key thing that with every student sent is they are a nonprofit, but I think what resonates is that, John, you are partnering with a few organizations that are for profit, and any of the revenue that they share with you is so that you can actually impact more students. That's kind of the heart of what you're trying to do, and you're trying to just make as big of an impact as you can. And so it's I think what you were kind of going through very quickly was just how you can help them before they go to college, while they're in college, and even post college. So it's just an overall support. So did I miss anything on that?
No, that was good. And like I said, if anybody have questions about that, you can post them now and we'll address them later. But that's, there's a real trend in nonprofits that if they partner and develop a for-profit side of it, they don't have to entirely depend on donations. And so this helps us scale and to grow. But we do it with those that are natural partners. So it takes a lot of expertise to help people find the right purpose and career. And I'll talk with you in a minute about Crown Financial Ministries Career Direct, and the other one we'll talk about later, College Assistance Plus. It's an option for parents to opt into that, and they can get some solid help, but it also helps expand the ministry so more students are impacted and their life trajectories are changed.
Yeah, I think it's I know when I was going off to college, some of my friends picked a college because that's where their significant, boyfriend, girlfriend were going. Or I wish I had selected that where I actually went to undergrad because it was the best for the field, but I actually didn't even have any idea what I wanted to do when I went off to college. And so that's what I think you're going to talk about next is how do we actually help them know a little bit more about themselves, and so is that where we're going next with the purpose and career?
Yeah, that's where we're going next. And of course, students are at all different levels of maturity. Some will, in this process, some will really figure it out and say, this is what I want to do. I want to be a doctor, and I want to be a pediatrician, or it's very specific. Some will have something very general and says, well, I think I want to do something in the health field, but I have no idea what. There's so many options, right? And there's some that will say, maybe it's health, maybe it's education, maybe it's something else. I'm not sure. But the closer you can get to having worked through the process of understanding what you may not want to do and who you really are, all of that helps. And the closer you can get to making some of the right picks on the first major you select, it's a really beneficial thing. go to the next slide here. So on average, it takes students in the U.S. 5.5 years to get a 4-year degree. Colleges measure completion rates on a 6-year. If you look at all the stats, college will say, here's our graduation rate for 6 years, and it's actually pretty low. So a major feeder to this is changing their major too many times. It's between 3 or 4 times is the average that students change their majors. So obviously, this is going to cost more money. Is another lap around the track for another year or two is going to cost a lot more money. And you can waste a lot of time and still, even after that, not figure out who you really are, what is the direction, what is something that will resonate with you, and if you're a Christian, also something that where you can serve the Lord and be, impact the kingdom within your major. So if what I said, the average is 5.5 years, if you look at some of the costs of college, like Southern Methodist University is now $77,000. It's since it's going up 3 or 4% a year, in 4 years it'll be $342. If you take 5.5 years to go to the same place, that's going to be $471,000, almost $500,000. And if you have 2 students, it's going to be double that. So, you really don't want to extend that college experience more than you need to. So for high school juniors and seniors, we've partnered with Crown Financial Ministries Career Direct. They are Larry Burkett. Some of you may know that name. He created Crown Financial Ministries quite a few years ago. They walk in the circles of Kingdom Advisors and others. And they developed over a 10-year period a really, really good assessment. And then what we have done is they have coaches. They have about 300 coaches around the country, and they have taken the top 6 that they think are really great at working with high school and college students, and they've let them be on our team, so we know them personally and we can integrate. And what happens is you take an assessment, and then the coach meets with the parent and the student together over Zoom for a few hours, and they really unpack the assessment and look at what things really make sense for the student, what would be majors to select, and just get them ready so they're sure either have a major selected or have a process in mind how to get within the right field and then go from there to a real specific selection. And we also they work with us to try to embed it in students the idea of impacting the spheres of culture. So just because a student has a lot of zeal for the Lord doesn't mean they need to be a pastor. Maybe they should be an economist that's going to impact the world that way. So we try to embed that thinking within them. So Career Direct has been used with over 350,000 people across the world, and the assessment covers skills and abilities and vocational interests and some other things, but also values here. So it's a little different because it kind of covers the value, and the cost for that is $350. So if anyone wants to do that, I'll be giving you show you at the end how to connect with them. Any questions on that?
So I know that there's some schools that will try to do this for students. The counselors will try to meet with them and say, maybe you should try to take more classes in high school that, as you said, are for someone who already knows that they maybe want to go in the healthcare industry. But if someone doesn't, know what, whether they want to do business or healthcare, this helps them understand, hey, this is your strengths. These are the things, of course, that you value. These might be the vocations of interest to you, right? Yes. And so it helps them, if they have a better understanding of who they are, that allows them to maybe then say, now, what is the best next step for me, correct? As opposed to, hey, I'm going to go figure it out in after 2 years or 3 years of college and just spent that money.
Right. Yeah. You got it right. The core is understanding yourself, who you really are, how you were designed, and then you're in a much better position to do that. And then on a practical level, they take you through a website that will help you look at videos about future professions, even see job postings, and get very tangible about what these future professions are like, what their hiring rates are like, what their salaries are. And so you can come in much more informed than you would otherwise. Natalie was asking, at what age do you suggest kids do the career direct process? I would say the junior year would be the standard time. That would be the best. Although if a student is precocious and leaning forward, sophomore year would be fine. You can also do it in the senior year, but I'd say the center point would be sometime in the junior year.
Yeah, not the freshman year. The frontal lobes aren't as developed in the freshman year. So yeah.
Yeah, and Elliot, Ed really asked the same question. Okay, and so I don't know if there's anything else on that subject, but now we can talk about college cost.
I think the only other question I had is, how is it different from what the student might get at the high school? Because really the counselor in high school only meets with the student, correct? They don't actually meet with the parent as well.
Yes, that's true. And also, in many schools, there's about one counselor for every 400 students. So they can only go so deep. You can't really get to know them. These people are trained. They do this all day long and have worked for years in doing this. So between the assessment and the talking together, it's much better. I don't want to devalue what the counselors can do, but this really takes it to a much more personal level. And if a student and parent want to go further, usually these consultants offer some follow-on services as well. Any other questions on that?
I don't think we've got any in so far.
Okay. Yeah. So on the college cost part, so we'll be talking about College Assistance Plus, and I have a little personal knowledge of them because while I was helping between the time I worked at Lockheed Martin and the time that I was starting Every Student Sent, this was essentially my tent maker job. I was working for them and learning the college process. So so I did spend a number of years working with them, and so I know a lot about them. So let's say that, I'll also say that College Assistance Plus, it was founded by a gentleman by the name of Paul Selich. He was a good friend of Larry Burkett. He was teaching Crown Financial Ministry courses in his church when he saw the amount of debt that people were coming out with. And often if students wanted to go into ministry, they couldn't do it because they had too much debt. Or they'd marry a spouse that has a lot more debt, and they just see their lives getting off on a really bad track. And so he saw how much colleges were charging, how much the rate was going up, and he said, I need to do something about that. So he started College Assistance Plus. And if you work with us, you'll get a chance to personally meet with Paul Selich and some of his team. So it's expensive. It's going up 3 to 5% a year, every single year. And so you need to find out, what is the right major to pick. So if you're going to pick a college, you want to figure out the right major, pick the right college, and then we'll want to get the lowest possible negotiated cost. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. People think a lot about the outside scholarships, and it's okay. You can go after those, but it's really not where the big money. Actually, outside scholarships only average about $500. Institutional aid, in other words, money that comes from the endowment and the operating funds of the college, is really where the money is. College is a business. And so what we'll be talking about here a little bit is unpacking what the business of college looks like. And if you understand that and open the hood, you can be much more informed. The cost of college has doubled. You can see from 2004 in 20 years, it's more than doubled. And by 2030, you can see these numbers for Rice. This is per year for just 1 year, $87,000. Vanderbilt, 95. University of Texas, even 35. Student debt is growing. It's much higher than credit card debt, and there's no sign of that stopping. Well, how do you reduce the cost? And as I said, the mindset here is understanding what the college business is and how to use that to your advantage. So the first step here is finding we've already talked about this, finding your career and major clarity. Now you can actually opt to College Assistance Plus does this also for you, or you can do it through, they'll also partner with Crown Financial Ministries, and you can go that way. So you can go either way, but if you go through a whole package of College Assistance Plus, they do offer that. And one of the things that they do, because they've got so many thousands of clients over the years, they will often connect the students with, for internships, they can find people to connect them. And as they're trying to pick a career, they can have them talk with and have a chat with different professionals in different areas to help learn that more specifically. And they have a similar assessment process and a review process. So the key is, finding that major and direction. And I think of a story. There was a gentleman. I'm trying to remember his name now. Okay. His name was Jack. I'd written this down, and he went to a college in, a private high school named McQuaid. It was very expensive. It was actually a Catholic high school, but he was not doing very well in school. He was, his grades were like in the low 70s, and he just wasn't really motivated. And so his parents brought him in to talk with us. And Paul Stelich was sharing with him and asking him, so what do you really like, Jack? He says, I really like golf and hockey. He says, that's great, but if you're going to go to college, what kind of career, what are you interested in? He says, I don't know. I just like golf and hockey. So Paul thought about it a little bit. And he says, okay, what if we could somehow bring a profession into the area of golf and hockey? I want to introduce you to someone at IMG. IMG is a Cleveland-based company that negotiates deals for sports athletes. They did Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods and a lot of the Cleveland Browns and things like that. And so they have, so he connected up with them, and they said, how do you get into this field? He says, well, a lot of people we hire come from Michigan State, right? And we know the program there, we like them. And then we have them intern over the summer, and then if we like them, they can work with us as a lawyer, And so all of a sudden, Jack had a real picture of where he wanted to go. He could visualize it, he could taste it, and so suddenly his grades zoomed up, and he started doing really, really well. And he actually graduated well. He got into Michigan State, ended up interning there, and a couple years later. He called Paul and he says, or maybe 1 year later, he called Paul and says, you're not going to believe this, Paul, but I'm the president of the freshman class at Michigan State. and then he ended up going through the process and eventually got a job at IMG. So it's just an illustration is if a student can picture something that they want to do, they're going to study a lot harder and do well. So then next thing is clarity on your budget and financial aid. So you have X number of students, and you need to really understand what the college costs will likely be and how does this cash flow out both now and when your students are graduated. If they're going to take out some loans, what is the cash flow on that loans? And so instead of just, going with your first child and just hoping it's going to work out, I have to say we, because I worked for them, College Assistance Plus, help them figure out, what can you really afford? What does this look like? What is your overall expense? Tie with your financial advisor and make sure this all makes sense before you go ahead. And then the next step is to build a comprehensive school list. So help you understand, if once you know the major and you know the direction, here's a list of schools that fit your budget and your major. And if you're doing sports, that will correlate, into the sports aspect. So you have a good list of that. And I'll show you later on a little bit of some software we use to help you keep track of all this and manage it.
So, hey, John, real quick. Now, we had a question where someone asked, if do you still recommend this if the kid is pretty certain what they want to do? And I think what you're saying is, if they have more clarity in that first step of what they want to do, then it may even be actually easier, because now you can very clearly say, well, now I'm probably going to know exactly, if for example, if they know they want to be a pediatric nurse, well, now I can go find a comprehensive list of the best schools in that area of nursing, and that will help me then determine, what that cost might be. But of course, what you're saying is the step in between those two is you got to have clarity on what is your budget and your financial profile, so before you start looking at those colleges, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you answered that well. Thank you. But if that didn't answer your question, then Natalie, just pipe in again. Okay. Then there's the and go back kind of to the school list here for a second. So this is important. I remember a client I visited where the daughter really wanted to go to St. John's on Long Island in New York. It was about a couple years ago. It was about $52,000 a year that time, and I asked her, what does she want to study? And she says, well, photography. I think I like photography. And it was we dug into it a little bit more, we found out her boyfriend is already there, right? And so, well, first of all, generally photography is not something you have to go to college for. You could, if you want to be a good photographer, you can do that without college. And so, but she was kind of, been on this. So I talked with her parents a little bit and got them to be able to talk with her about the idea that, hey, Caitlin, you're going to have to carry the loan for this, and this is what it's going to be per month. And she goes, ouch, I don't know how I'm going to do that as a photographer. And by the way, you're going to pay pretty much full price for them because your grades and scores are not that good. Here's a plan. Once you go for 1 year to a state school and study, marketing and, marketing that with an edge on photography and things like that, whole marketing program, and then you'll be in a better position. So she did that, and then she went got her into a private college for about $24,000 a year. And by the way, I was doing a seminar in a church, and the parents came in, and the boyfriend was also with them, and they were all thanking me for saving her a bundle of money going to college. So, helping them figure out the right direction. There was a guy named Chris. He had like a 33 ACT, and he wanted to go to Calvin College. He was also a track guy, but it was a little more expensive than they can afford. So we looked at other colleges that compete with Calvin and got him into Spring Arbor College, another Christian college, for $24,000. And it was really tied also to his track times. So just illustrating, to look at the right schools is important. And also, as I'll discuss in a little bit, we also look for a school to put on there as a leverage school that we know will give a lot of financial aid. And so then there's the application and interview and essay process. So assist with all of that. The interview part is really important. A lot of colleges don't require an interview, but we suggest that you do it. But you do it not with an admissions officer. Try to do it with a department head. You could even do it when you're visiting the college. Make an appointment ahead. I would like to have an interview with a department head. That does a couple things. First of all, the student will understand a lot better they can ask a question. So what are you going to do to help me get into grad school or into this next job? And they'll learn how practically minded that department head is. But also we train the student on how they are thinking so that they can position themselves. So we do a role-playing thing with a student to get them to be very comfortable doing the interview. And we typically ask the student to think of a couple stories that illustrate their, why they would be a good candidate. Because, well, like we like to say, facts tell, but stories sell. People remember stories. And we want to eventually use that department head to go to bat for us as we appeal for more money. So kind of teach them how to do that, give them, and we know the things that the school is interested in. We also know some things that schools will, they have an algorithm they will run to try to determine what propensity you would be to be a lifetime donor for the college. And yeah. So this is all, the colleges over the last 10 years have hired people called enrollment managers, and they are statisticians that know this data well. And we got to know one of them and learned a lot of the inside story. So
they're calculating what the lifetime value of that student might be.
Exactly. I mean, any smart college president would do that.
So do you recommend that ChatGPT just writes the client's the student's essay then as well?
I don't know. I got to think about that one. But anyway, but it's true. So we try to have them, we know the things that trigger that algorithm. So we try to have them speak into that during the interview. And we usually do that over Zoom and a role-playing thing and some preparation. So all these things kind of maximize your first financial aid offer. And then, so that should be better than normal. If you go through all these steps, if you know exactly what major, and sometimes one major will bring in more money than another. There's a lot of nuances to this. And then this is time to appeal to your top one or two schools for additional financial aid. So once you know where you want to go, we have also asked you to apply to what we call a leverage school, one that competes with that school, and but will give you a better offer. And so there's a whole appeal. Colleges call it appeal. You can call it negotiation. It's done in writing. And so we're an expert at helping by drafting letters for you to send that will then, cover this appeal. And we walk you through the whole appeal process, because it's also important to know how much to ask. If you ask for too much, they'll kind of blow you away, but you don't want to leave money on the table either. And so we do a lot of study on seeing what is the shortfall of students. Is a college, have a shortage of students? Are they going to be more hungry? Who do they compete with? I got a story here that'll tell you a little, illustrate this. So there's a student, this is in Clarkson College. It's an engineering college in New York. And it was about $60,000 then. And a student had okay grades, but not stellar grades. So they only gave him a $12,000 scholarship. And they said, that's still a lot for them to pay. What can we do? So we went through this whole process, taught the student how to interview. And then when but we said, we want you also to apply to Missouri Science and Tech, because they're actually even higher rated on the engineering scale, but a lower price, even for, can be a lower price even for an out-of-state student. And one thing we know about some of these schools is they want geographical dispersion. So Missouri Science and Tech actually wants to get New York students. They want students from all 50 states. And each school that they reach out to, each high school, is a marketing opportunity. So they know that presently, probably Missouri is not on this kid was from near Rochester, was not on the Rochester High School wall. But if they could get a stream of students going from this, it was a kind of high-end suburban school, that could be another fishing pond for the college. So knowing all that, the student went out there, he interviewed, must have really knocked it out of the park, and came back. And because of all that, they gave him an offer for it was $19,000 room, board, and tuition, right? So it was crazy low, and they really wanted the student. Out of like, it was lower price. It was a $38,000 school at the time. It's a little more now. But so they went back to Clarkson, and the family would have said, okay, I think we should go to Missouri, but they really did still want to go to Clarkson. So what we said is the letter to Clarkson looked something like, "Dear Clarkson, thanks for the offer you gave us, but it's just not affordable to us. We do like the school and would prefer to go here if we can afford it. If you can add another $18,000 per year to your offer, we will accept it." And so Clarkson is faced with a decision: lose a student or get him with a figure that they have in hand. So they accepted it. And then what we do is usually go back in the other after the freshman year, if they have good grades, and appeal for more money. That make sense?
Hey, John, on these last two steps, what role? So I know some students will, there's some kind of, I wouldn't call them feeder schools, but it's some of the community colleges do have good relationships then with the larger institutions. So how often do you see, like I know an example where a gentleman graduated with an agricultural economics degree from Texas A&M, but he took all but one class at the Belen Junior College, which is just within blocks of A&M, and so he likes to brag that he's the best agricultural economist because he only had to pay for one full price class at A&M, and his degree is from A&M.
Yeah.
So is that also a part of what they should look at, or how often do you see that where maybe they can, hey, go get a few years here, and then you can transfer to Arkansas or Missouri?
Yeah. No, absolutely. We look at the whole direction of where you want to go, and with the idea of spending less money. If you can get a lot done at a community college, that's good. You have to make sure everything's transferable.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Every situation is different. That's why it requires some private counseling. Like the New York Times, this is a number of years old, but the New York Times wrote an article about a story where we worked with Carly, and she was halfway through Cayuga College, and due to family economics, it was hard for her to continue to go there. And so I'll send you this article. You can actually read it and see the process. But we ended up saving her $29,000 over the last 2 years. So you can actually do this when you're partway through college. Every situation is different, so you got to look at it and you have to make sure what is feasible, what is not. But in this case, that was, and so that would be equivalent to like a $59,000 savings over 4 years. And we'll send you that article. So over this last 12 months, we've saved about $3.5 million for clients, and that averages about $16,000 of additional aid per family on an average. And this is really busy. I'll just say that you probably can't even read it because this is supposed to come out a little bit bigger. But I'll just say these green ones are in grade 10. So there's impact on everything you do. So if you find a viable career major, there's less major changes and things like that. That's going to save you some money. It's hard to quantify the exact amount, but it will. If you make an informed college search and choice, that's going to save you some money. If we do a lot with sports and helping people get into the right college and connect with sports. And there's a lot of sports fallacies, by the way. I will offer you, and when we email you, offer you a book. This is a new book that Paul Selich wrote, and I'll give you a link where you can get it. It talks a lot about the sports fallacies, where people really think they're going to get great deals with sports scholarships, but it's not always the case. But we help a lot with sports and coaching and NCAA programs. And if you get the better first offer than typical, that's good. If you can further negotiate that, so from the already better good offer, if you get another, $4,000 or so a year, that's like $17,000. That was an average last year. If you save maybe $2,500 a year as you appeal later in the last 3 years of college. That'll save some money if you. We help with grad school. If you avoid the 5th year of college, if you get the best student loans, we help with that. And also loans where you get a cosigner release very early instead of later. So, and then we help with networking and job prep and just the value of time, saving a lot of time. Let's see, I got a question.
David had the question came in, John, and he said, what if you already been told you don't qualify for financial aid? Do you help with finding scholarships and grants as well?
Well, so the
I think the language is you use financial aid as the total.
Yeah, financial aid
where student loan would be, if you don't qualify for student loans.
So most of what I've been talking about is not what people traditionally figure as financial aid. Financial aid is often usually need-based. And so, but probably the majority of our clients don't qualify for financial aid. So this is presenting the value of your student to the college, showing competitive offers, and then negotiating and appealing based on that. If a family's income is in the area where they earn financial aid, we help them a lot with the FAFSA and the and other documentation to keep that as low as possible. But I think that answers your question, Nancy. You can let me know if it didn't.
Well, Nancy's question was actually around AP classes, and do those type credits help financially? And
oh yeah,
because it's really helping them probably spend a lot less per credit hour, correct?
Yeah, yep. And it's a good feather in the cap as far as getting a good offer too.
Oh, so it helps with just the actual acceptance.
Yeah, and making the student more valuable so that they will give you some more money.
So the cost that you've got on the screen, that's the college assistance team. That's what they charge, $4,000 for the whole. And then if there's already a student in college, already been accepted, then $1,000 is just if they only want to be helped with just appealing the cost.
Yes. So the appeal usually is more for high school seniors right now, like in the second semester. This is what we call appeal season. We're doing lots and lots and lots of appeals. And so that's a situation of looking at your situation, looking at competitive college and designing an appeal to reduce the cost. So that's $1,000. It can be done. It also can be done for students that are already in college. And let's see. And then you don't need to look at this busy thing, but if you work with us, you have a personal counselor and you get a student dashboard, which keeps all the communications and texts all in one place. And you can put all the schools you're looking at there and do some self-investigation if you want. But it just makes it really convenient where nobody forgets an appointment or a message. And so it's been at the best time to start is the summer between the 10th and 11th grade is a great time to start, but it can be all the way in through senior year. Yeah, so that's.
Give some time for anyone to submit an additional question. So one of the things that I think kind of moved you is as you were working, trying to help students, and why you kind of created the ministry is I don't think you mentioned it so far, but when the students go off to college, I think you had previously mentioned when we talked prior, what percentage of those students that are going off to college as freshmen actually might abandon their values and their Judeo-Christian beliefs? Was it like in the almost 80% range?
Well, it's according to Barna and Lifeway, it's around 70%.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so we're not talking about them just having fun, having a little bit of partying, but really more of like not believing in the gospel or having a radical change in their values and beliefs, correct?
Yeah. And these studies, the things you can measure, obviously you can't x-ray a person's brain, But if you but what it means is they're not partaking in any Christian fellowship. They're not going to any churches, any groups. They're just not. And so and usually as you interview and look at them, they've already maybe chosen a spouse that is not a believer and picked a career and the people that they run with. And so that's all things that will not, that will lead you down a path that is not fruitful. And it used to be that students would get a little bit older, they have kids, and they would kind of come back to the faith. But the way the culture is running now, all the studies are showing that's not happening anymore.
So to tie it all together, if they really know themselves well, and then they are able to kind of negotiate what college is best for them going after that type of major, then what you're trying to help them do is even before they ever step on campus, they could actually start to build relationships with organizations that they can actually very quickly kind of find people that might allow them to flourish in college with their spirituality and their beliefs, and even allow them to not only get the right major but also continue on and really maybe make a big impact on what they're trying to do, because you're helping them try to accelerate. I remember when I went off to college, I didn't know what organizations almost for the first 2 years. And so what you're trying to do is you're just trying to help them get acquainted and connected with, and that's the main purpose you have with every student sent as the ministry. So did we have another question come in?
Well, Natalie asked about what's the average cost saved for students. So if you think about a couple of the slides I showed, it's the part you can measure is from the first offer from the school to how much you appeal or negotiate more. And so that was about $4,300 a year times 4, it's about $17,000. That's the measurable part. But before that, you've already done things to improve that very first offer in the first place. And then there's things that are harder to quantify, but finding the right school and which can impact the cost in the right major.
But the cost is not a per year, so that, for example,
no, it's only
$4,000 is a one
$4,000,
time, and that's for them
yeah,
through college. And then
yeah,
if they only are used to appeal, it's only $1,000 for if they
yeah,
needed to appeal several.
yeah. And we go by referral. We want only satisfied people. So what we do is we meet with you first, look at the situation, give you our honest evaluation, and then go from there. If there's a case where, like I said, there's value and everything, but say you're going to, University of Texas school. And so basically the appeal and negotiation works mostly with private schools or out-of-state schools. If you go into a University of Texas school, there'll be some savings there, but a lot more limited. And so we can quantify all that for you. So we just, and there's some a la carte things we can do with you also. So we're here, this was born out of a desire to help people in general, help people in churches. And we grow by connecting with churches and people and good referrals and just good relationships.
So, hey, John, if you recommend that the student gets involved between their sophomore and junior year, if they did that type of career assessment and it tells them that they should be a veterinarian, right? And so they're thinking, okay, well, when do you recommend that they would actually start doing an internship? Should they even maybe try to do an internship between their junior and senior year so that they can really kind of get some life experience? Or do they need to, do you usually see the kind of the assistance in helping them find an internship isn't until they're in their college years?
Well, if you can do it between the junior and senior year, and we've seen a lot of students do that, that's a huge plus, because in the veterinary field, there's a lot of people, especially young ladies, who feel they want to be veterinarians. And my son-in-law is a veterinarian. It's a great profession, but sometimes they'll get into that and see some of the dirtier parts of the task and go, I just don't like this. And so we got a bunch of stories like that. So if they can do those kind of things earlier, that's better.
I think someone texted me a question. I think they were having some issue with the Q&A. So what I think their question is revolved around is there any benefit in having like a dual language as a part of the child's profile? I think is what they're trying to ask in the text message. Is that?
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's a life plus. It's a personal development thing. It's a skill that you can use. And but colleges look at that. Colleges are looking for students that will add to the good complexion of the student body. So their reputations about colleges spin out, and they go out. And so a reputation is the student body is kind of like this. So they actually, one of the reasons we do the interviewing process and so on is to help them see the value of these good students, so they will be willing to pay some more money to get them, because the value, if they have people in different areas, so they actually want to usually have a composite. They want to have a set of like dual language people and people that are interested in international studies and people that can relate to the internationals there, or it's more skilled or multi-talented. They want a set of people that are, gregarious and outreaching. They also want nerds, because nerds are important in this life. We probably wouldn't even be having this call if it weren't for nerds. And but nerds like hanging around with nerds. And so, you know what I mean? I can be a little bit flippant here, but the idea is they're looking for different people to fill out their profile to make a compositely interesting college experience.
Well, I think you've done a very good job of helping us see that the college kind of looks at the student as a product, and you're helping them market that product to the university,
Yes.
And then getting, finding the different. So thank you. I think this has been very helpful, because you've outlined there are some things that they can do on their own. They can do the career assessment through the Career Direct. They could do some of those steps. They could also, if they don't necessarily have the time, I know a lot of families are busy, so they may actually benefit from just having someone step in and provide that specific counseling and consulting role, and that the cost is typically on average, of course, much less than what they are paying. And so, because again, it sounds like what the intent is that if they're helping more people reduce their cost, then less students will have student debt. And that's going to allow them to flourish financially after college.
Right.
And so, all right. So thank you, John, for the time. I will ask John to probably go ahead and just send you some information if you'd like to get more direct contact with John. That way he can reach out. I know he's got his email on the screen. So again, wanted to say thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If there's any type of positive, negative feedback, of course, since we're just trying this type of session out, please let us know. Or at the same time, any topic that you'd like to get some additional information like today. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a blessed day.
Yeah, one quick note is as we're rolling out, every student sent, are we still on? As we're rolling out every student sent, we've picked 4 metro areas around the U.S. to really do this well. DFW is one of them. And so I'll send you something about that, and you may want to help your church. We'd like to make the class of 2025 the most successful in history.
Perfect. Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.